Sally, what was your process? How'd you get in here?
I submitted a video audition. I don't remember why I couldn't be here, but I submitted a video audition to Joshua and just prayed to any type of God and universe thing there might be that I would get the shot. And then I got the email saying that I had been given the role, and I was excited. And then I got to work with you, and you came in for your audition, because you were a little different than...
And I came in late. Yeah, everybody had already been cast except for me.
Yeah.
And then, I went through what was one of the most painful audition processes I've ever been through, and it's probably because it had been 2 years since I'd done a show. I just completely forgot. And luckily, Joshua had the foresight to bother me enough to come in and audition. And then, he did, and he was right. And it was... hit the ground running. It was a terrifying, wonderful process.
Yeah.
Trial by fire.
Great. You were the missing piece for sure. Once you stepped in, everybody was like, okay, whew, we could let out a little breath. Yeah.
I'm glad you felt that way, because I had no idea what I was doing. So that works out.
Couldn't tell.
Good. Fantastic. You know, I didn't know Next to Normal. You and I had talked about it like eons ago, and I was familiar. I had a passing fancy with it. And then once I started exposing myself to the cast album, to the material, I didn't understand the depth and the reality of what was being said and done. And with this really kind of wild pop score, I wasn't ready for how interesting the score was, and in performing, how difficult the score was. But to come in and to plug yourself into something that's so thoughtful and so meaningful and so impactful was something that I couldn't miss.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't, honestly.
Me too.
I have been obsessed with Next Normal since probably about the time that we talked about it eons ago. When I was in high school, I fell in love with the role of Natalie and just felt like I connected with that angsty teen girl so much, and that there was, deeper, bigger things going on in her life. It wasn't just a teen angst that everybody kind of goes, oh, it's just a phase, Mom. But it's, she really had a lot of depth to her, and I thought for a teenage character that was outstanding. And then as I got older, I just started to identify and understand more with Dianna and fell in love with her. And the reason why I got obsessed in the first place is because, there hadn't been, that I knew of, any musicals that really tackled mental health specifically, and especially not for women. No. And that was why it was so groundbreaking to me, because people don't talk about it, and especially the fact that it surrounded something to do with postpartum, although she had other ailments obviously prior to that. It's such an important thing for society to really learn about,
meditate on,
and take seriously, because moms are super women, but come on.
At what cost sometimes. No, what you said about Natalie is interesting, because especially in musical theater, there is a blueprint of a different time period where one character has growth and everyone else is there to support that character.
Yeah.
Everybody in Next to Normal has their own exact journey and their own destination, and none of them harmonize. They're all completely different. And they're real people really striving for something, which is not something we get to do often.
No, not at all.
The importance not only of recognizing your own business, recognizing what you bring into a room, what you bring into a space, but how putting out norms or putting out expectations on other people can be just as damning and harmful as not reflecting on yourself, because I feel like that's Dan's journey.
Yeah, he definitely, I feel like for Dan, fell into the what a man is supposed to be and didn't deal with his own trauma. And that's what I always felt from you, was that you were very good at having that line of, well, I may be feeling a certain way, but I don't get to do this kind of attitude sometimes. And I think for me, for Dianna, she taught me a lot. She really taught me that at some point it is okay, and it's probably the best choice to walk away from whatever it is. Because whether it's a permanent walk away or it's just a break or it's whatever, if you are constantly trying to work on yourself while also supporting and being there for every single other person in your life, at some point something is going to fail. And I think Dianna really felt like disappointing her family was the worst thing that she could do. So she just kept trying to do it their way and to be there for them how they expected her and how she expected herself to be as a mom. And it just came time that she had to walk away, and that's okay to put your mental health first.
My favorite thing to talk about is the creation process of this show, because the cast was so open and ready to play and to listen and to talk to each other about what they thought was happening in the moment. And once we do that, we all have arguments and conversations, and we start to clash and harmonize, and it becomes wonderful. And to completely divert, what made that possible was our director, Joshua David Smith, in granting us the footprint, the playground, and the rules of the playground. And that's all he did. That's truly all he did. And it's the smartest thing I think you can do as a director when you have working, participating actors, is let them play and let them run amok.
He definitely knew like the moments to like, all right, that was funny, but let's rein it in a little bit, or whatever it was.
Still watching the whole picture.
And still kept it very true to the goal and to the text and everything. But he also, I loved being able to have the discussions about even just the line delivery, like getting so nitty gritty specific, because there were moments that, you know, you or I had a certain idea of how a scene was going to go, and Joshua would, you know, pull us aside or after rehearsal, ask us like, hey, what do you think's going on here? And then he'd kind of give his ideas, and it was one big collaboration. There was never a, you're wrong, do it this way kind of vibe. And I think that, especially with something as heavy as Next Normal, that is so important, because at the end of the day, like, yes, you are playing characters, but it does take a toll on you to be diving into such heavy mental health issues constantly. And so being able to have a space where you can openly discuss and express yourself and explore the path together instead of being, you know, pushed back into line when you're not in line with someone's vision. Joshua just really, the collaborative spirit was everything he was about.
It was everything to the show. And there are some shows that benefit from being choreographed to death. There are some shows that absolutely everything down to the T, and it makes perfect sense. But because this is personal interplay, allowing us to dive deep into these characters, and then, as you say, ask us probing questions and really make us think and respond as well, it was amazing.
I think that theater is just such a wonderful vessel to make topics more palatable. Mental health especially, it's such a sensitive topic for a lot of people, and everybody has different experiences with you could have the same type of diagnosis and you're just completely different than another person who has the same diagnosis. So I think it's very important because it makes it more accessible and understandable for people who maybe haven't had that experience or just don't know how to deal with what's going on in their life with, you know, if they have somebody who's having mental health struggles. Now they have kind of a blueprint, a story to follow and watch and just learn. Remove yourself from it instead of letting your emotions and your intentions come in.
Yeah, I was really shocked by the audience reactions. So frequently, wow, you're a great singer. I really liked your acting. This one moment was really interesting. And I got none of those comments from this show. I got, that was me, or that was my mom. I had somebody say to me, thank you for portraying someone who won't give up. Which completely put me in tears after I walked away, because I hadn't even considered what it was happening in the space, or who was seeing themselves in the show, or who they were seeing, what relative or person that they're close to or passionate about was in this show, you know, and it shook me. And that's the impact it can have. I think mental health absolutely has a place in musical theater, performance space, in any kind of theater. I think what you said is beautiful. It is more palatable. There is an opportunity to have different kinds of discussions. Next to Normal is so outrageously complicated in what it discusses. It attacks and sides with the pharmaceutical industry. It attacks and sides with the family dynamic. I mean, and to have this constant argument and this churning is how people live their lives. This is how people experience reality.
Yeah.
You know, it took these guys over a decade to press out what became the piece that will be distributed to everyone that we performed.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that they must have had some personal experience with it, of course, but to distill it down so brilliantly is so mind-boggling to me. It's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't really get any of the typical kind of compliments either. It was very much like, I have bipolar. Thank you for portraying her as an authentic bipolar person and not a caricature. Or, you know, that when you said, I had someone tell me when you said to Natalie, "And who are you?" that was their experience with their own parent when they were growing up. And it's heartbreaking to know that it is a reality. Obviously it is, but then for them to be able to watch a story and see it on stage, I don't know if that's, this is just trippy.
It is.
I don't know how else to explain
wild
it.
Meta, and it isn't, you know, watching a dance sequence.
No.
You know?
Yeah. it's like a representation matters kind of moment in a way, because no one really wants to talk about mental health in day to day. And having a performance to be able to go and see probably helps.
Yeah,
in some
and then
way.
you leave, that sparks conversation for you, you know, and even if you're not discussing yourself proper or the person proper, you can discuss the things on stage or the things. It's what art is. Art is the ability to look at something else and to have the catharsis, that feeling, whatever it is, on something else.
Yeah.
It allows you to get some distance and reflect.
Yeah, exactly.
Playing in this space was outrageous. It was so, as a performer, it was terrifying at the start to think about the fact that you're literally sitting on top of this, this close to the performer. It's amazing. But then once I realized what it was we were doing and watching people react was really startling and really exciting, and an electricity that you can't. Even on bigger stages, I played to an 11,000 seat house in my lifetime, right? Even at that level, it's a wonderful exposure, but it has nothing on the electricity and the zip back and forth between the audience and you. Yeah. There's no mistaking what's happening in the room. Yeah,
it was just such a smart idea and a cool idea to actually make it feel like the audience was in the house, in the Goodman house. I love that High Tide has so many entrances and exits into the space, because that just really, it kind of breaks up the monotony that can happen in some shows of always entering obviously from the sides. But it also just kind of broke tension for them and kept them very engaged. So it was such a unique
I had so many
experience.
People tell me that your exit through the actual street door completely freaked them out because it just shattered the fourth wall to a place beyond recognition where what are we doing? What are we talking about? Where it was so engrossing of a space that it took people even from another level after nearly 2 hours of watching us scream at each other, you know? And so the space is invaluable, you know, and the liberty I felt in doing this show, and it was our director Joshua David Smith that was part of it, but also the production company itself has no expectations as to what it wants from a production. It wants good, it wants quality, and it wants whatever, you know, the production demands, but I felt free as a performer, And I don't think the audiences were ready for what they got once they did come in, because we were so in a different realm of anything else you might see in Springfield.
Yeah. And then being able to see that like this space changes from event to event, from like the concerts, from Hand to God.
I know, going to see Hand to God was like such a different setup, and it was still engrossing and still super tight. I felt everything all at once. Yeah.
It's such a fun opportunity to be able to come to a theater that it's not exactly the same look every time. Not just like the stage, but literally where you are sitting, what kind of environment you are kind of brought into and enclosed by. It's so much fun, and I love that they take the opportunities that they have with the space, and that Martha's being so willing to partner with them and allow them to play in here and create different stages. It just
so neat. Such a different atmosphere from anything else theatrically that you get in Springfield, with a bartender in an active bar. First of all, that's really interesting. But second of all, to have such an open intimacy is it's completely different. It's its own entity.
Yeah. The stories that High Tide has chosen to tell are ones that I think this community has been missing for a while, and it's okay to talk and do stories that are the stages of life, happy and joyful and fun, but knowing that there is a stage for you to come to where you can just bare your soul and be as raw as you need to be is something that's really unique. And I think it's so important and beautiful that they have created such a welcoming and supportive environment that all stories can be told.
Yeah. Historically, theater over the last 100 years has been predominantly for straight white people. And it is just the way it's written. It's who's been writing it. And now over the last 50 years or so, maybe even, there have been such an influx of different ideas, different concepts, situations that people actually deal with on the daily. It was why Next to Normal changed my life. It was real people having real conversations. And I think that's what's so exciting about High Tide.
Yeah.